Welcome, Ollie and Simon. I'm Helen Williams, parkrunner A6014, event director of Harrogate Junior Parkrun here in the UK, and alongside Vassos Alexander, co-presenter of the Free Weekly Time podcast. Before we start, I'd just like to recommend that after this conversation, people check out the many parkrun social media channels in the UK and across the world, as well as subscribing to the various parkrun podcasts out there. You'll find me on the Free Weekly Time podcast, but there's also, with me now, Parkrun Adventurers and the 9:30 Club, to name a few others. We are joined today by Ollie Hart and Simon Tobin, both of whom are practicing GPs in their local communities, heavily involved in their local parkrun events, and health and wellbeing ambassadors for parkrun. Great to see you both.
Hi.
Let's get straight in there because you've both got great parkrun stories personally. So, Ollie, you started in January 2011 and Simon, you started in June 2016. You've both got a considerable amount of runs and volunteers between you. Ollie, your home parkrun being at Graves, and Simon, yours being in Southport. Turniches, give us a little insight into your first parkrun stories, if you can.
Go on, Simon. You go off first.
Okay. It was really interesting. I wandered down, really not knowing what to expect at all. The park run had been set up in my local area, and I was just completely kind of bowled over by it. It was kind of like an instant love affair, so love at first sight. And I just thought, this is bloody amazing. And all these people in my sort of general practice area, just getting out for some free exercise, having a good time, getting to know each other. What's not to like? It just completely knocked me for six, and immediately my brain began whirring with the possibilities and the opportunities that threw up. So it was an instant love affair.
Were you already a runner? What got you there in the first place?
What got me there was it was a local park run in my area. Yes, I've been a runner for a number of years, not a very good one at all. All started because I bought a pair of running shoes down at the London Marathon Expo where my wife was running. And just having bought a pair of running shoes, having never run before, I just thought, that's an awful lot of money to spend never to use a pair of running shoes. So anyway, so that got me running. But yeah, so I'd run for a few years before my first park run.
And you've just gone down and so you were bowled over by the community. What about you, Ollie?
Yeah, well, actually, we started slightly differently because we were, as our practice, a GP practice, we'd heard about parkrun, and we kind of approached one of the local ones and said, can we do a sort of takeover, or can we sort of come down and have a practice day at the parkrun? And that was Endcliffe Parkrun in Sheffield, and they were a bit busy. And they said, you know what, we'd really rather you didn't. But why don't you start one up yourselves? Because there's a park up the road from you, and we've been wondering about whether we should get one going there. And that sort of triggered a whole adventure. So we sort of got together with the council, raised some money, and set up our own park run as a GP practice. Back, you say, 2011. And I did it in conjunction with one of our receptionists who was a very shy. So she says, you do all the talking, which clearly I was quite happy to do, just as I loved putting my face out the front of things. And we set it up, and Joe, who was the very shy retiring receptionist, over the period of a year just grew in confidence. And any of the people who have seen the videos that were done with Parkrun, Joe realizes now that she is just an ambassador and a community champion extraordinaire. And it's been lovely. That just epitomized to me the whole journey, really, of seeing something grow. We started with 50 people, and now there's kind of 300 every week, and seeing Joe growing into a community leader, and just seeing, I guess, a part that on a Saturday morning there was nothing going on there, and now every Saturday morning there's this incredible group of people that they'd climb up a barbed wire to get there.
And I guess so. You're both GPs, and Ollie, you started yours as kind of. It started first as a GP practice parkrun, didn't it? Which is a long, long time ago. Were you aware of the investment that was going to have and then follow through into your community? Because I suppose starting it, you kind of had your GP hat on. But for Simon, you've gone there as a personal kind of journey, and you've gone and done parkrun just like everybody else. And the kind of GP thing, I'm imagining wasn't in the back of your mind almost immediately, or how did that journey come along before you realised how much it was going to help your own patients in your own community?
I think many GPs are a bit like magpies, because we're sort of jack of all trades, or sort of expert generalists. We've got a sort of a breadth of knowledge, and we're constantly looking for things to pick up and to use. And so that was in my mind, but it was really just talking to people at parkrun, listening to their stories, that really hit home and made me think. I heard amazing stories about people who had never run before, who hadn't exercised, people who were, sort of on the peripheries of the community, who had been brought in and made contact with new groups and made new friends. I saw people with mental health issues, depression, anxiety, and more severe mental health issues, who were being helped by getting together each Saturday. And all of a sudden, it all just fell into place that this just fits so perfectly with general practice, that there's just a tremendous opportunity there to use parkrun as a vehicle for growing and nurturing sort of some of the bonds between people in our communities, to improve mental health, physical health. That there's nothing not to like about it.
And how long do you think it took before you, I mean, were people aware when you went to your first parkrun that you were their local GP? Because we chatted a little bit about this when we've interviewed you for Free Weekly Time. And it's really interesting, isn't it? Being a doctor in your community must be quite tricky, because there's a personal and a private aspect to all of that, and you want to keep your own personal life to yourself, and you want to do things for yourself. And at the same time, when you understand how much this can have a positive effect, how long did it stop you being, there's our doctor at parkrun, to just being Simon? And how do you manage that kind of shift?
Almost, it happened for me almost immediately. Is you start interacting with your patients as just friends, and it's transformational as a GP when you start regarding the person in front of you as a friend rather than as a patient. And it removes barriers. It makes an instant connection. And my patients are absolutely fine. That they don't come and pester me at a parkrun about, could you look at this lump, or I've got this itch down below. They respect that I'm not working, and we just have a natter. And it's really, really just heartwarming for it to happen. And I feel better connected with my patients, so I'm benefiting from it every bit as much as my patients are.
Yeah.
So it's not a problem at all.
And do you find that the same, Ollie, in your parkrun, when you go there, that you can just be Ollie, and at the same time you can see the benefits of maybe some of your patients who people might not know their stories, but you might know their stories, and you can see that benefit happening? Can you see that kind of visibly?
I mean, I was thinking as you were talking there, and I mean, parkrun does often really blow you away, doesn't it? When we first set it up, I unashamedly thought it was just a running intervention. I thought it was going to be good for exercise, for the practice. That's what motivated us. And what really blew me away was that actually it's about the community and the connections. And being part of that as a person is lovely as well. Just take your job out of the picture. Everybody who goes there has got different jobs and stuff, but for that little period of time, you're connecting on a community level, and that was the journey that surprised me most about setting it up. How strong that community feeling became very quickly, actually, and has continued to remain. And I guess that's the big thing we miss, isn't it?
It is the massive thing we miss, isn't it? So, what would you say the key health benefits are? Just as a kind of vague overview of that, what would you think the key benefits of parkrun are? If somebody was to ask you that, what's going to happen when I go to parkrun? What am I going to benefit from it? What would you say to somebody?
Well, there are obvious things, aren't there, about just getting out and doing something and being out in the open doors. But to build on that theme, I guess, and I know general practice is going through a bit of a transformation at the moment, whilst we're realising that there are things beyond medicine that really contribute very strongly to your health, what they call the wider determinants of health. And there's things like social prescribing and community development that we're we're a bit late to the party, but I think doctors and medics are realizing actually that's really very important. And for me, parkrun is a great epitome of that. It's an easy route into connecting with your community and feeling, you're in your local park, doing something together, but it's this feeling that actually a community is gathering and being proactive about helping each other out. And I think that's a real appeal to me.
And so parkrun does have a partnership with the Royal College of GPs. When you're at work, how easy is it for you to prescribe parkrun to your patients? How does that happen? When would you do that? What kind of things would automatically flag that up as to something that you would then think, this person could really, 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 have a positive reaction to parkrun?
I think for me, it's not so much about prescribing. I feel slightly uncomfortable with using the word prescribing. For me, it's about discussing stuff with your patients and talking about options. Firstly, you're looking to find out what somebody's hoping for, what they want, what are their goals. And often people will say to me, well, they're not keen on taking lifelong tablets for blood pressure or for their diabetes. Is there another thing they can do? And there are other things you can do, and either as well as the tablets or instead of the tablets. So when faced with the choice between lifelong medicine or lifestyle change, my patients often go for the lifestyle. So once we've made that a goal or agreed that that's a goal, the rest is easy, and you start thinking, well, what are the things on offer? What's available locally? And parkrun ticks an awful lot of those boxes. It might not suit everybody, but it's a great tool to have in your kit as a GP.
And do you find the same, Ollie?
Yeah, no, it's definitely challenging our mindset, isn't it, of what it means to try and support people to have good health. We've traditionally found it very easy just to prescribe them a tablet or refer them to a specialist. But actually, this parkrun for me has given me a manageable and really, really useful kind of facility that enables people to take an alternative approach, like Simon's saying, and it's just worked so well for so many people. And that as a doctor, you want to see things working. You get a real buzz from seeing people thrive, and that's the lovely feedback you get when people go to parkrun.
And I suppose as being partrunners yourselves, it's not like you're saying, I've never experienced any of the things you're talking about, but my medical book says this will fix it. So for yourselves, everybody uses parkrun as a kind of private thing, isn't it? In many ways, you can go there, and it can be because you need, like me, I need space from the kids, or you might need to be around people because you're really lonely, or we've all kind of got the thing that makes parkrun special to us. And because your patients might then see that you're also partrunners, must kind of help in the community as well, because it is literally for anyone and everyone that wants to be involved, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. And I think the beauty about things, Simon will probably agree with this, we often in healthcare, we have things that come and go. There's this little initiative and it's there for a year and it's gone, and parkrun, it's been consistent, and it's got the sort of, you've got the confidence it'll be there. And I've dipped out sometimes. There's been times I've had to take the kids ice skating on a Saturday morning. I haven't been able to go for 6 months, and then you can go back and you go, oh yeah, I've really missed this. And it's lovely to see you again, and lovely to feel the atmosphere. And I think that's the beauty for people, for anybody doing something for their health. You don't always consistently do something all the time. You have a go, you get keen, and then you fall off the wagon a bit, and then you do something else, and then you come back to it again. And that's a real asset to have that consistency there, I'd say.
And we're in a funny time now, aren't we? We're kind of stuck right in the middle of nobody really knowing where we are. And you've both been right in the middle of your own communities during the pandemic even. How do you feel like the people who are around you in your communities have been affected in general at the minute? So obviously parkrun is on pause and we haven't got that outlet. What are the common themes that you're seeing in your practices every day?
I think for me, it's the impact on mental health. I thought for the first 3 or 4 weeks, my practice patients were doing okay, and then there was just a deluge, and that hasn't stopped. months into it, I'm still spending far more time dealing with mental health issues, and that's really, really sad to see, and you just wonder when it's going to end, and frustrating when one of the fantastic sort of opportunities out there, parkrun, for people to help improve their mental health, was whipped away at the time when you need it the most, and it's so frustrating. And Ollie touched on the social determinants of health, that it's the people who from low income families, from poorer areas, that seem to be hit hardest, and that's a recurring theme. Just about everything bad that occurs seems to hit you worse if you're from a disadvantaged background. And parkrun over recent years has really done amazingly well with reaching out to disadvantaged communities, to growing the number that are participating from those communities, the number of people who were previously inactive who are now doing a bit more as a result of parkrun are just been creeping up year on year, and it's just really, really devastating to see that paused. But it is only paused, and we will be back, and that's exciting.
Yeah. What about you, Ollie?
Well, it is interesting, isn't it? I recognise that, but it seems to me people have had very different experiences of this. You'll get some people who have actually quite enjoyed it, and they say actually it's been a lovely reset, and I've really quite enjoyed having a bit of me time and time with the family, or just a time out from the pressure of work. Not having to run around doing all those things you had to do. And then clearly at the other end of the scale, there's people who have been deeply traumatized by this, who have been really, isolated. It's thrown them completely off their track. They felt, very unsafe and exposed. And the thing is, you don't know what people's experience has been unless you take time to understand it. And I think, if anything, I would say we've just all got to be really compassionate and mindful that everybody's had a very different experience, and you can't assume it's been good or bad or whatever. It's just very, very personal, isn't it?
And I think one of the nice things about parkrun when it comes back will be that, be it a positive or a negative experience, what happens off the back of that, it will absolutely help anyway, isn't it? If you've chosen lockdown and you've been lucky enough to get really fit and you feel really healthy and you're fitter than you've ever been because you've had more time and you're connected with your family and it's something you can go out and do, that's a really positive experience. And on the other side of it, if you feel like it's negatively impacted you, but you feel more isolated possibly because of it all, but you're lucky enough to know somebody who can get you to a parkrun, you can start becoming part of a community again. So I guess it is really important, isn't it, that when parkrun comes back, that is something that can benefit everybody again, isn't it? It's just there for everybody, isn't it?
Yeah, I think we forget or don't realise just how powerful parkrun is as a tool for public health, and people are physically and mentally healthier as a result of parkrun, and so it's actually really quite important that we get parkrun back, so that people can begin to take those steps back to reconnecting with communities, to exercising if they've let it drop.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be an amazing day, isn't it?
It's funny, isn't it? Because you don't sometimes you don't think through to these things, but just hearing you say that, my mind was just thinking to what it will be like to go back to it, and it's quite emotional, actually, isn't it? Just to think that I have a feeling that we need it again as a community, and that the sort of healing process that will happen as people get back together and start to re-establish those supporting relationships and just making contact. It's going to be so important.
And I think everybody's been really good at being really patient and waiting for it to be the right time, haven't they? And when it comes back, it'll be, hopefully, it's going to be just an amazing experience for everybody involved. And we can't thank you both enough for all the help and all the work you do for parkrun behind the scenes. And thank you so much for your time today. Thanks to everybody who's tuned in. You can catch up with Ollie on Twitter. He is at OllieHart7, and Simon also, he is at DocRunner1. Do also check out the many parkrun social media channels in the UK and across the world, as well as subscribing to the various parkrun podcasts out there. Now more than ever, it's important that we all come together and support each other. The parkrun family, as always, is there for us all, and we will get through this together. Can't wait to be back in a field somewhere. Thanks, guys.
Lovely to speak to you.
Lovely. Thanks a lot.
See ya.